Sleep better and change your life. Your sleep is key to having patience in relationships, which is the core of a really healthy relationship or marriage. Your sleep is key to you losing weight. If you're training and exercising and not getting enough sleep, you may hang on to the weight. And sleep is also critical for you to perform your hardest mental tasks so you can focus for long periods of time until the task is done. Not to mention, if you lose sleep, you have less willpower to say no to foods that aren't good for you. You're more tempted to grab the caffeine or the sugary drink at McDonald's or wherever you go to buy sugary drinks, Starbucks. So if you want to avoid those types of decisions on a day-to-day basis, get more sleep, and it's going to improve the quality of your life. So the reasons why we don't get enough sleep, it's because we don't organize our time well enough in our day. We don't get the essential tasks done on a timeline between 8 o'clock and when you have to go to bed. We make choices sometimes to drink water late into the evening, or tea or coffee. And if it's less than 3 hours before you're supposed to go to bed, you're very likely to wake up because you have to go to the bathroom. One of the reasons also we don't sleep well is sometimes we're just worried or anxious about something. Maybe we're over consuming the news and we're worrying about what's coming around the corner politically or economically. Or we're worried because we're watching our stocks or investments go down and there's some sort of change in the economy. Well, what you need to do is try to prepare for those situations as best you can. At the end of the day, you have to be able to let go of whatever happens. If you've prepared, you've done the best you can. And sometimes you do lose money on investments. And although Warren Buffett's rules are 1, don't lose money, and then 2, look at rule number 1, it is important. Having said that, put your investments into more conservative places if you're concerned about that. Make sure your money is performing in a secure and wise fashion, and then you won't have to worry about downturns in the economy. I think people tend to go higher risk because they are a bit greedy and they want to grow their money faster so they can retire earlier. But slow and steady wins the race. You don't want to lose your nest egg right before you're going to retire. You also don't want to lose more than 50% because then you need 100% return, which is very hard to get your nest egg back. So you have to eliminate these stressful pieces of your life in order to sleep better and have better health. You have to not worry about what's going on in the news. If you're worried about something going on in your workplace, that's fine. Take steps to look for another job. Or if you're not ready to leave, then just network to make sure your bases are covered in case something happens to your full-time job. Consider moving to different places if your job market isn't very secure in the city that you're living in. Have a backup plan. Save some money in order to regroup and recalibrate if you need to, in the case that you do lose your job. And then you can rest easier at night because you're not worried about the existential threat of losing your job. These sorts of things all improve your health. And when your health is improved, if anything were to happen, your body's in its prime and ready position to deal with whatever is going on. You don't want to give yourself a lot of undue stress before it's time to deal with the stressful situation, because otherwise your gas tank goes on empty and then you have less resources to deal with any potential stressful situations that come up in the future. So what you want to do instead is relax, get enough sleep when times are good. Make sure you have some money and some extra reserves in terms of health and energy in case something does hit the wall and you need to figure out a new action plan and pivot in the future. But also try to eliminate risk in your investments. Try to avoid watching the news unless you absolutely have to. Just try to avoid things that are going to be sticking into your head in the middle of the night and worrying you. For example, horror movies. I don't actually really like a lot of horror and Halloween stuff, except I indulge in it for fun once a year. So if you're constantly watching a lot of stressful TV shows with mysteries or shooting or gore or thriller type TV shows or movies, I'm not saying some doses of that can be fun, can be exciting, but you don't want to overdo it on those. And same with video game addiction. If you're constantly playing these shooting video games or violent video games, this can actually stick into your mind. It's like you're unconsciously playing out the pattern of how do you shoot and kill everybody. And then that violent pattern can stay in your mind in the middle of the night, and you might wake up from nightmares. So you don't want to indulge in that stuff too much of your time, more than you have to. You also want to make choices in your career that are going to give you a more relaxed lifestyle. Avoiding really stressful careers like complaint hotlines or sales jobs where you're constantly being rejected. These sorts of career choices, unless you're really that logical, thrill-seeking type that really gets off on rejection and failure, and there are those people in society, you don't want to get into that because that's going to stay in your mind and also cause stress. You also want to be careful about where you choose to live, which neighborhood you're in, because you could be in the middle of a high traffic area where there are a lot of accidents going on, or maybe there are a lot of new drivers in your neighborhood, and then that creates stress as well. So the more we cut down on unnecessary stress that's in our lives, the more bounce back and the more resources we have to deal with stress when we absolutely have to deal with it. And then when we need to rest and rejuvenate, we're going to sleep well. We're not worrying about things that could happen in the middle of the night. Your stress levels and your lack of sleep also contribute to chronic diseases. So if you're constantly worrying about stuff, stressed out, trying to move for the next job, and you're always in that fight or flight mode, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to pivot when you need to, but if you're chronically in that place, that can lead to things like cancer, heart disease, stroke in your later years, because your body is just dealing with so much acid from all the stress. Even if you do everything else right, you work out, you eat healthy, your body is still in a chronic mode of being unhappy and not getting enough rest. So you've got to make sure that the rest is there, that the relaxation is there, or it may have severe consequences later in your life, that your healthy years are cut short, or even your life itself is cut short.